If you were to ask me in ninth grade who my favorite band was, I would have told you Sum 41.
I am shocked. I am shocked.
Okay, but if you were to ask me who my third favorite band was, I would have said, fittingly enough, 3 Days Grace. The Canadian hard rockers really had a chokehold on my eardrums back in the day, and I really dug their particular brand of crunchy aggressive riffs, dark yet catchy melodies, and melancholic lyrics. Their 2006 album 1X in particular I still hold very near and dear to me, and still consider it one of my all-time favorites. So when it was announced that Adam Gontier was returning to the band, and Matt Walst was also going to stay, I was definitely intrigued. It's not so often that we see a case where a classic member returns and the member that replaced them also stays on. For the first time in the band's history, they were going to be a five-piece with 2 lead singers, and I was curious to see how that was going to affect the dynamics and the writing of new songs. And that brings us to Alienation, the band's 8th studio album, released on August 22nd, 2025. So is Alienation truly something different for 3 Days Grace, or is it more of the same? And most importantly, is it good? Well, I think it's alright. Now there is a bunch to like about this album. There's a ton of aggressive riffs, Brad's bass is given a bit more spotlight compared to previous albums, Adam sounds as great as ever, and his voice blends really nicely with Matt's. I like how both vocalists are put to good use. Each guy gets his time to shine, they go back and forth, and there's not one guy, pardon the pun, dominating the other. Still, Alienation does have its shortcomings. One issue that I had was with the lack of structural variety. Once you really start getting into the deep cuts, things start to feel samey with the way the tracks are laid out. Things like heavy intro riff with a lo-fi effect, clean somber verse, halftime drums during the outro, and abrupt song endings are found numerous times throughout the album. I wish they could have spiced things up more from track to track. I also found the lead guitar parts, and just lead parts in general, to be kind of buried in the mix. Those rhythm guitars, for as big and crunchy as they sound, they do take up a lot of sonic space, and I think a bit more balance would have been nice. Another issue of mine is that a lot of the choruses just don't really sound memorable or catchy to me. There are good ones, but just not as many as I would have liked. When I think back to some of my favorite 3 Days Grace choruses, whether it be Time of Dying, or Get Out Alive, or Break, they tended to leave a decent amount of space for the vocal melody to breathe and really sing. But with some of these Alienation choruses, I feel like they're just a bit too wordy. And the wordiness of the lyrics tend to shape the vocal melodies in ways that I just don't really connect with. Now as for my personal favorite songs, Mayday was the song that got me excited for Alienation, and I still think it remains one of the album's best tracks. Kick-ass main riff, head-banging chorus, tons of great sing-along melodies. It's a lot of what I like about 3 Days Grace condensed in a nice, brand new package. Death Wish was another one of my favorites, and it really evoked a classic 3 Days Grace sound. It had a killer groovy riff, a standout verse in an odd time, a solid chorus, and a nice little guitar solo, albeit somewhat buried in the mix. Now as for my least favorite songs, the title track Alienation left me a bit underwhelmed. I thought the distorted music box, I'm not actually fully sure what that is, under the vocals in the verse was irritating. I didn't care for the chorus, and there was some nice build-up during the bridge, but they just went straight back into the chorus, which to me killed the momentum, that could have been better used to launch into a new section. And the song Don't Wanna Go Home Tonight I thought was a pretty middling ballad. I appreciate that it added some different color to the track list, but I found it pretty unremarkable. And that main muted guitar riff was weak. But I did like the bridge though. Overall, I thought Alienation was decently good. I think it's kind of rough in places, and I was hoping to like it more, but I still think there's enough good stuff here for 3 Days Grace fans to get excited about and enjoy. Alienation still has a recognizable 3 Days Grace sound, but still manages to have its own identity within the band's catalog. It's not just a nostalgia trip, and with a lineup the band has never had before, I think that's a fair thing to get. And so with that, I'm Andy B. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if I make another, I'll see you then. Take it easy.